Back in the early to mid 90s, there was a boom in car audio, so a lot of the home audio companies were taking advantage of this. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this amplifier by Advent, a company that you may have only known of with home audio. Advent was started by Henry Kloss, and back in the early 1970s, these early models called the Advent loudspeakers were introduced. Fast forward to the 80s and 90s, Advent became a pretty popular home audio loudspeaker company. Had models such as the Baby, shown here, a 6.5-inch bookshelf speaker, as well as floor standers, Heritage, Legacy, and other models, which were highly regarded for their price-to-performance ratio. A sneak peek in the March 1994 Car Audio and Electronics in the Hot News section, Advent was mentioned for their first car amplifiers featuring oversized heat sinks and LED display, and they are bridgeable. In the very next issue, which was the directory issue, April 1994, we notice there are 3 amplifiers listed under Advent Mobile, the PA-415, PA-250, and PA-450. The 450 is $379 in 1994, which equates to around $780 in 2023. I have this full color brochure of Advent Car Audio or Advent Mobile Audio from the mid-90s, which shows off their amplifiers, their speakers, their subwoofers, and some electronics. Really cool to see this, and I appreciate the person who donated this to me years ago. The summer 1994 Crutchfield had some new products to show off, including the Advent Mobile Amplifiers. As they say, a snazzy new look outside, high-grade circuits inside. If you drive a show car or hope to someday, take a serious look at Advent's new line of amps. Not content to offer another Me Too line of black box-shaped amps, Advent introduced a streamlined charcoal gray chassis with metallic gold highlights. They put dual 10-segment LED power indicators in the 2 most powerful amps, and they rounded the edges of the heat sinks, spreading them like wings beyond the confines of the main amp housing. But they did not design the wings for looks alone. On the practical side, the wings allow for easy flush mounting of the amp, which saves space and protects the wire connections. The 3 models listed in the directory are also shown here, but notice the price of the 4-channel is $329, quite a bit less than $379 for retail, which still equals around $680 in 2023. And here we have it, the PA-450, which is the largest model in the lineup of Advent amplifiers. You can see here with a 360-degree view. It is very unique in the heatsink. I've never even seen another amplifier that looks like this. Allows you to flush mount it easily. And just like the display on the front, the name, the little VU meters there, very cool. We'll see those in action, of course, later in the video, so make sure you stick around. Here on one side of the amp, there's a mode switch for 4-channel, 3-channel, or 2-channel. Also, gain controls for channel A and B, as well as channel C and D. Then we have RCA inputs, A, B, C, and D. Also, you'll see the high-level input on the end. It's available via a Molex plug. And yeah, there you can see, nicely recessed. Looks good overall. We'll do a flyover shot here of the amp. You can see there's just a little bit of damage there on the one end, but overall the amplifier is in fantastic shape to be almost 30 years old. On the opposite side, we have 2 30-amp ATC style fuses, and then everything else is on screw-down terminals, including 12-volt, they call it sensing, which is turn-on, and ground. And it's also interesting to notice the way the speaker connections are kind of backwards. It starts with channel 4 and goes down to channel 1, which they call DCBA, which 4321. Of course, those connections, even though they're screw down, they are kind of difficult to hook up wires to. I'll show that later. As far as dimensions go, this is a Class AB amp, so it's big. 18 inches by 10.5 inches by 2.2 inches. As far as the ratings go, kind of already mentioned it, maybe, but 50 watts by 4 at 4 ohms, 75 watts by 4 at 2 ohms, or 150 watts bridged at 4 ohms. Let's power on this Advent. But it's on. Let's try it out. Next up, we'll try the fun as well as scary part with old school amplifiers, as we never know how they're going to react to the dyno. If you've never seen the dyno test, on the left you'll see the power output, in the middle the ohm load, on the right the voltage of the dyno. We'll also have the clamp so we can measure efficiency of the amplifier.
This here's my favorite part.
We will start with the 4 ohm 4-channel test. It's rated 50 watts by 4. We have 2 channels shown here on the dyno. The other 2 channels are loaded at 4 ohms. You can see we got that power pretty easily, around 66 watts per channel if we average it. So not bad at all. Certified takes us up to 1% distortion. The amp is actually rated at 0.5%, so it's pretty close. Uncertified to clipping, virtually the same, around 66 watts per channel. Our voltage now, we did let it drop to the mid 13s, and I didn't notice until after the test that the amp is rated at 14.4, or I would have kept the voltage a little higher. Anyway, dynamic test, we do get a little bit more power there. And as far as the efficiency goes, yeah, this is a Class AB old school amp, so around 50% is not something that's shocking. 2 ohms, 4 channels, rated 75 watts by 4. Again, 2 channels are shown here. The other 2 are loaded at 2 ohms so that we can ensure that everything's loaded down. A little bit shy of the 75 by 4, but statistically not enough. It's like 72 watts by 4, so it's very close. Uncertified to clipping, again, virtually the same. 74 watts on one channel, 69 on the other. If we average them, around 72 watts per channel. And then let's try the dynamic test. And you will notice this amplifier does seem to give higher dynamic numbers. So, you know, that's something that's kind of cool. Even though it's not going to be much to your ears, it's cool to see the numbers jump up. Efficiency dropped even more in the 4-channel mode to 2 ohms, 37%. Ouch! Now let's bridge the amplifier. 4 ohms, 2-channel. It's rated 150 watts by 2. We'll see what we get here. 1 kilohertz is the test tone. And there you go. We got the 150 by 2. We got closer to 160 watts per channel. So that's nice. Again, old amp, 30 years old. It's amazing that it can still do this. I don't think the capacitors have been replaced either. Uncertified, again, right about the same. Uncertified takes us to clipping, of course. Dynamic sends a pulse tone into the amp, the IHF 202 tone. And you can see, again, this amplifier does have some dynamic headroom built in. Efficiency at 4 ohms bridged, 44%. So, again, that's to be expected. Here are all the results we just showed. The 4-channel mode here, it did its rated power plus more, except for the 2 ohm test. It got a little bit shy. And also we bridged the amplifier. We'll show that. Again, all the tests were done at 1 kilohertz, which is where it was rated. However, our voltage was a little bit lower than the 14.4 that they rate the amp at. So overall, I'll give this amplifier a pass. Now, back in the October 1994 Autotronics magazine, the PA-250 model was actually tested. So I wanted to pull this out and see how close we got to their test. And you can see the results here. It might be a little hard to see, but they got 60 watts times 4, or 146 watts by 2. So pretty close to what we got overall. Now let's do a sound demo. You might want to use your headphones. See how this amplifier sounds bridged with the ELAC bookshelf speakers. Advent 4 channel is all hooked up to the ELAC bookshelf speakers. Let's give it a listen. Ready to cool it down? Ice flow. A little bit of coast. There may have been some slight distortion there with the mic, but overall the sound quality was pretty good. Now let's find out what's inside, thermals and internals. Here we took the bottom plate off the amp. You can see 220, 230, 240 degrees Fahrenheit. That was a resistor. Got super hot. Not sure if that's normal or not. The techs out there can let me know. Here on the bottom of the amp, we can see it's made in Korea. It also tells you how to hook up the amp. So let's take the bottom plate off. Even though we already did for the thermals, we want to take it off here so you guys can see how it works. Take off the 6 screws on the bottom. Although the heatsink is unique, the amplifier itself is a typical Korean mid-90s amplifier. 4700 microfarad, 35 volt capacitors here. Now you may notice it looks like the capacitors are leaking on the board. I was told this is glue, but I know these capacitors are very old and should definitely be replaced. You know, if you're going to use an amplifier like this, you need to pull these out, clean the board, and swap out those caps because they have for sure fallen out of specs over the years and definitely need to be replaced. So thanks as always for watching these videos. If you like them, thumbs up, subscribe to Wilson Audio Extras, and we'll have more of these throwback videos if you guys keep watching them. Big D, till next time, know where I'm at. I'm out.